So underwear.
Yeah, how do we're going to start the podcast today talking about underwear.
And Kaiden's like, peace out.
Yeah.
He didn't sign up for this.
I heard Kaiden, that you have a great story about potentially, allegedly, maybe that's the right word, allegedly wearing someone else's underwear.
Okay, so I don't normally pack until like the day before a trip, right?
Same.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood.
So I'm just throwing clothes in a suitcase. Unknowingly, I threw my brother's underwear in there.
Wait, so what's the age difference between you and your brother?
For his underwear, like 7 years, somewhere around there. So we're in the line of I think Transformers.
Yeah.
And I realized that it's not my underwear, and why is it so tight?
Yeah.
So you got dressed that morning and didn't think, this is a little snug.
Oh my gosh.
Went to the park, went about your business, and at some point during the day thought, man, this feels really snug.
Well, okay. No, because I just put clothes on and my mom was already stressed out because she lost her purse. And so we were just going to the park.
Oh, this is the purse day? Because I remember that.
Yeah.
This was the day after she lost her purse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's starting to make more sense.
That's hilarious. I had an underwear experience as well.
Oh my gosh.
This wasn't quite like that. I was in Haiti and my luggage had been lost. And so to make matters worse, I had a hole in the crotch of my pants. So that hole developed while we were flying to Haiti. And I thought, well, I'll just throw these pants away when I get to Haiti on this mission trip. And I don't have to wear them the rest of the time, except my luggage got lost. So I'm wearing, and Haiti is like, I don't know, 137 degrees all the time. So I'm wearing the same underwear and the same pants that are developing a massive hole right in the crotch every day.
This could not be worse.
So this is like day 3, and people are being very kind. Everything is starting to smell, and
I can't even imagine. I was not on this trip.
no.
I'm thankful.
So there was a dude. His name was Cortland, and he graciously offered me a pair of his underwear.
He was like, boy, you stink.
Right. And so I wore them for the rest of the trip. I didn't give them back to him. I actually, they were really good underwear. I wore them for a while.
Yeah, I remember you going back
Afterwards.
to them talking about how nice they were.
They became my lucky underwear. No, they didn't.
gosh.
Just kidding.
I
You
don't
still have them in the
have.
drawer somewhere.
Oh my gosh. I don't have any stories about wearing someone else's underwear because I think I'm obviously the most normal person on this podcast.
Well, that's probably true. Those pants actually that had the hole in them, the hole was getting out of control. And so we had our friend Sierra actually hand sew them, but the pants smelled so bad that she said she was like keeping them an arm's length, trying to
Gagging while she was trying to patch the hole.
Yeah.
That's a real friend right there.
Oh man, it was rough times, but we got the luggage back.
That's
so,
good.
Yeah, with a couple of days left on the trip, I think we just threw away the pants. We did not throw away the underwear though. We have a friend actually that on a mission trip, some of the people that we were working with did everybody's laundry, and they got some of his underwear mixed up with somebody else's.
Yep.
And he wore those underwear forever. Like they became some of his favorite.
They became a story every time he wore them from that on.
We only told that story when we were out of the country together. We would talk about wearing wearing other people's
Wow.
underwear.
This is
Yeah, chilies underwear. Yeah.
We did not.
He was not a small man.
This is getting worse and worse.
Not have worked out
This
very
is getting
well.
worse and worse by the moment.
Oh my gosh. We should move on with our life.
Welcome to the Doing Life Together podcast, where we talk about
Underwear, apparently.
Oh no.
12 episodes in, you guys.
And canceled.
12 episodes. It's April Fool's Day.
Yep, it is.
I wish we were going to say April Fools that we didn't have this many underwear stories, but it's
Oh yeah, April Fools. It's not real.
but wow.
So we're joined today
Yeah,
by our nephew, Kaiden.
this is our nephew Kaiden. Kaiden, say what's up. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh yeah, I am a junior in high school, and here at my church, I lead the youth worship team. So it's pretty fun, but also very stressful.
Feel it. I feel
I'm
it.
sure.
Yeah. So where do you live?
I live in Yakima, Washington.
Sweet. So that's a long ways from here, and I don't know why I said that. That's really stupid. I mean, obviously, if you pass like fourth grade geography, you know that Washington is far away. I'm gonna stop talking about that. But anyway, so Kaiden's on today. Really, what Kaiden did is he sent me a text about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, your podcast is taking off around the world.
Around the world.
Around the world. All of my friends are talking
Oh my
about it.
gosh.
And I was just wondering if maybe I could be on your
Yeah, I'm
pod."
sure it went down exactly like that, right, Kaiden?
Oh yeah, no, it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kaiden, I don't know how we're going to do this because you are our first remote guest, but we need to figure out how to do a fist bump. Fist bump literally around the world.
Around the world.
Boom. So maybe fist bump to the camera. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
Look
yeah.
at that. That was beautiful. Let's try again. Boom. Boom. Oh, I
Yes.
love it. That's one of the best fist bumps that we have ever
I like it.
received. So today's April Fool's Day. I don't know if you have any jokes, any April Fool's jokes. I'm not really an April Fool's fan.
No.
So I don't really get into it. You have any April Fool's stories, Kaiden? That are
Not
appropriate
really.
for podcast?
Not really.
No.
I know. I've got my my brother poured water on my bed.
Oh,
That's about it, though.
That's
And
awesome.
then went April Fool's?
Yeah.
Which brother was that? TJ?
Keaton.
Oh, it was
Keegan.
Keegan. Okay.
Yeah.
Keegan was going to be my guess.
So Kaiden has two little brothers. One is Keegan and one is TJ, and each one of them are very unique in their own right. And maybe we'll just have the whole family on the Doing Life Together podcast sometime, but I'm not sure we would be able to air that one.
Probably
So,
not.
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably not enough filters in the world for that.
Probably not. But anyway, we're really excited today. Excited that it's April 1st. Excited that this is episode, I think I said earlier, number 12, but this is episode 13.
13.
Of the Doing Life Together podcast. So we're wrapping up our first season, and lots of good stuff going on. So this is our last week. I think we said through the end of March, actually. So we'll be drawing later on today
Mhm.
for the giveaway for the 9 Words from Jesus books. We have
Right.
2 of those, 9 Words from Jesus. If you haven't listened to the podcast with Chuck Tate on it, then go back and listen to that. It was several weeks ago, and man, it is
So good.
absolutely fantastic. So go and listen to that. And I hope that you enjoyed our kids last week being on here. We're trying to let you meet the whole family here
Yeah.
on the Doing Life Together podcast. So, and then with it being April 1st means that there is a brand new total health challenge starting today. And this is not an April Fool's thing.
Nope, it's for real.
This is absolutely for real. So what are we doing this month? We're sticking with the 10 minutes of silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that's been really good for you. Don't grow weary, you guys.
Right.
And I'll have to say, March, I traveled a lot in March, and March was difficult for me because I kind of got out of my groove. And one of the things as you just adapt, you don't get to take off time being healthy just because your routine changes. You have to be able to fit all those things in.
Right.
So that really hit me strong kind of mid-month, and I had to adjust some things and figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? Because this is life, but also life is being healthy. And if I want to keep up this pace, I also have to keep up the health.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And so how do you do that? How do you adapt and adjust? It's not a judgmental thing, or anything like that. You have to learn to adapt. It's kind of what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about leadership, but we'll get into it in a minute. So we're doing 10 minutes of silence.
10 minutes with your spouse.
10 minutes
Or friend.
of focused conversation with your spouse or trusted friend, right?
Yep.
And we're doing the Bible reading challenge. Last month we did Ephesians, and this month, with it being Easter in the month of April, I think it would be really great to read the Gospels.
I
Right.
like it.
And so just something from the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are what are referred to in Scripture as the Gospels. They're the story of Jesus. It's really great because it's 4 different perspectives on the life of Jesus. And sometimes you'll see the same story. Sometimes you'll see different stories. It's the things that stuck out to each one of them, each one of the disciples. And so, no, I'm sorry, each one of the writers of the Gospels, they were not all disciples. Matthew and John were disciples. Mark was not, and Luke was actually a businessman. He was a doctor, a physician. And so lots of different perspectives that you have there. And it's kind of cool when you see one story and then you find out that it's in another gospel as well. And so you can read the other one too. So dig into the Gospels this month as we're preparing for Easter. And let us know what you think. Let us know what you're learning. And then you're going to journal those thoughts, right?
Right.
Journaling those thoughts every single day, whether it's just, I read this and this is what it meant to me. This is what stuck out to me. That's so important. And you can go back and look at that.
Yeah.
We're going to add something to the journaling, right?
Right. Yeah. We're going to add worship
Yeah.
to your journaling. So, we had a couple weeks ago Jasmine on, and we talked about worship and how worship is so much more than just what you do in service on Sunday or throwing on some worship music, but worship truly is a lifestyle. It is in everything that we do. It's in our hobbies. It's in, our giftings. It's absolutely everything. And so what we wanted you to do is to add journaling how you worshiped that day.
Yeah.
What did you do that was worship to God? And maybe that's that you went out on the golf course and you played around the golf. And while you were there, you acknowledged, your thanks for the skill that he's given you, or maybe he prayed for more skill, but
that's hurtful. That was hurtful.
No matter what you did that day, how did you worship? Did you give it your best? Did you honor God with what you were doing? And look for the ways that you can worship throughout your day that are maybe out of the box that we put around worship sometimes.
Right. No, I think that would be a very beneficial thing, just to look for the ways every single day that we're worshiping God, and then being intentional about doing that. And so, maybe it is that playlist that you listen to on the way to work, but maybe it's the person that you helped because you have a talent that maybe they don't have, or maybe they were struggling and you encouraged them, as the psalmist David did, that you said, come, let us exalt his name together, because I sought the Lord and he heard me and delivered me from my fears. And so come on, let's exalt the Lord together. See, that's worshiping God. There are so many different ways. Maybe you paid it forward at a restaurant or in line at Seven Brew or at Starbucks or whatever, HTO. Maybe I don't know what you did, but there's something every single day. And so staying conscious of those things will bring worship to the forefront in our life. And so we're adding that to the Total Health Challenge,
Yep.
and you're not going to get time off from your diet. I think I have to say this. So we talk a lot about internal government being paramount, and if you have internal government, you don't need
External government.
right. And I have to say that the beginning of March,
Mhm.
I didn't have very good internal government. I really thought that I would do better than I did. And I won't say that I was just, going hog wild,
Right.
but like I spent some time out of town, as I said. It's really easy to just grab and go,
Mhm.
and so I didn't do as well as I should. So I went back to zero sugar, no cheat days for the last couple of weeks in March. And we'll continue in February. We'll see how, no, in February.
April.
We'll continue in April, see how it
We went
goes.
the wrong direction.
Yeah.
We're not going back in time. We're
Right.
we're moving
If I
forward.
could turn back time,
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't eat
Oh.
so much sugar.
Oh, Kaiden, I'm so sorry, buddy.
I write really good songs.
You
So
rewrite some interesting lyrics.
yeah. So anyway, Total Health Challenge, diet, and then exercise. How you doing on exercise? Are you pushing yourself on your exercise? Are you going the extra mile? Are you running that extra mile?
Oh,
Did you like that?
I like that.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
Fist bump.
good job.
Around the world, fist bump. Boom.
Oh, there
There
we
you
go.
go.
Got
There you go. Good job. You're starting to get it.
it.
You're starting to get it. All right. Without further ado, Kaiden, let's jump right into the topic today. When we started having this conversation about what we were going to talk about on the pod, and by the way, I say podcast. I don't like saying pod.
But he's made fun of it so much that he started saying pod on accident.
Tiffany says pod. What are you, team pod or team podcast?
I think it just depends on who I'm talking to. Like if it's like a leader or someone, I'd say podcast. But if I'm talking to just friends, then pod.
I was going to say, you better not say an old person.
Wait, are you saying that means I'm more
Oh my gosh.
young in my verbiage? Oh, yeah. I think he's saying that you're old.
I mean,
That's hurtful. Yeah. Oh man. We're looking for a new guest here on the Doing Life Together podcast.
Kaiden, what are you talking about?
Oh
It's
my
my favorite remote
gosh.
guest we've ever had. You weren't remote, Jazzy.
Jasmine was over here taking offense.
She's all offended.
Oh my gosh. So today, what Kaiden said that he wanted to talk about on the pod cast was leadership. And so I think that's great because it's something that we haven't really dove into here on Doing Life Together. And so I think it's a great thing. Kaiden, why don't you start us off and just talk a little bit about what's on your heart on leadership. We're going to jump in and interject, but I'll let you kick it off.
yeah. So I think just being in a position that I am now, that like I can't expect people to follow me because of my title.
Mm-hmm.
I have to like really focus on my team and like showing I guess my team like why we're doing what we're doing and like why it's important, so that it's not they're not just following me because they have to, but because they want to.
Right.
Right.
And like I've read books about leadership, right? And they all talk about the same thing of just making sure like your team comes first.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's not like it's not just you. It shouldn't be like a selfish thing. It should be a selfless thing,
Right.
right? So
So what
yeah,
do you
that's
do?
kind of just
What do you do to show that? I mean, I firmly believe that a leader doesn't just bark orders,
Mhm.
but a leader leads by example, right? And
Yeah.
so somebody that's just sitting here as a dictator and they're just barking orders everywhere, but you don't set that standard, then you're not going to have the respect.
Right.
The
Right.
respect is earned, and it's by leading by example. When you respect them, then they will give you respect back. So what are some practical ways, as you know, as you're leading worship, that you're learning and you're seeing this in action?
I think like a big thing is making sure that everyone on your team feels good for like the night that you're trying to like prepare for.
Yeah.
So it's not um just trying to make sure everything works and then like pushing people to their limit.
Hmm.
And so just making sure like, do you feel good about your part? And if
Yeah.
you don't, what can we do to help you feel better prepared for what we need to get done, you know?
Sure.
Right.
Sure. And sometimes that means you have to adapt, right? Because
Yeah.
if they don't feel prepared, then that in turn falls on you. If they've done their part to prepare,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
how can I change and adapt to make sure that I'm setting this person up for their success,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's our job, as leaders, to always gauge the temperature of the room.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
how you feeling, how you doing, even personal things that people go through,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have personal things, and so maybe today it doesn't have anything to do with the task. Maybe it has something to do with something that's going on at home that's just in your
Right.
head or whatever. And so we're dealing with all of these things, but being extremely sensitive to those things, right?
Right.
Mhm.
What's maybe a practical example? I think that's a really good point. Are there any like specific stories that you can tell where you put that into actions, just so we can kind of grab onto this as an example?
I would think back to
Maybe without using names, just to protect the
yeah,
innocent, like Law and Order.
I would think back to like when we would first start doing worship for youth, like actual live worship. It was me on acoustic and one other person on vocals, and like we didn't have tracks or click or anything. So
Yeah.
all we had was just me and them. And it was really important to make sure that like we were all in a good headspace
Yeah.
so that even if we somehow like if we mess up, then we're not spiraling and um like stopping in the middle of a set because oh no, I screwed up, right?
Right. For sure.
And so what I have done is I would we would practice and then throughout the week I would make sure, hey, is everything good for this? Are you good mentally? Um I think I'm trying to think back to what we say here at Champion Center. It's like our reps. So relationally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So how are you doing in these four areas?
Okay.
Mhm. So good.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's super good. So it, I think it's always kind of tricky, especially when you're in a situation like worship, or where things are kind of. I hesitate to say it because I don't want it to be taken out of context, but where things are based on performance. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
worship is a performance, right?
Right.
But we all
Right.
know that you can get up there and do your best and play that horrible note, or start off the song on the
Mhm.
wrong key, or forget the words, and you end up on worship fails, or or whatever, right? But this happens it happens in business, it happens in life, where what, you may have tried your best, you were prepared, and you just didn't cut it.
Right.
As a leader, we have to deal with those things as well, and so how we respond to that
Mhm.
really makes a difference in the life of someone. How do we correct gently? How do we so
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on how do you deal with it when maybe it didn't go so well?
I think like just thinking back to times when it really didn't go well, I had to learn how to um, make sure that like it's not that it's like I'm putting on a face
Yeah.
to hide like all the weight that is on my shoulders, but to be like, this is not the time to show frustration or like anxiety. Let's put a pause to it. Let's make sure we're still um, like being engaged in everything. And as soon as things end, let's go. I'm going to go find a leader and I'm going to explain to them, like, we messed up. What can I do to be better next time? And how can I deal with this in a healthy way? You know?
Right.
Right.
Right. No, absolutely.
I think that's so good because especially as a leader, when you mess up, how you
Mhm.
handle that is setting the tone for your team and how they're going to handle it because mess ups are going to happen. People are going
Yeah.
to make mistakes, errors, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so you set the tone as a leader. And, you know, far too often we see leaders
Yep.
that get all diva and, you know, they make a mistake and it's the end of the world and they want to throw a tantrum. And that's not leading, you know. You may
Right.
have a position or a title, but that's not leadership. And I think one of the really important qualities of a leader is to show how you respond
Mm-hmm.
when you do have those hiccups, those failures or whatever, how
Right.
you move on from those, how you learn from those because your whole
Yeah.
team is watching you.
Yeah.
And how do you want them to respond? And that's I know it's often a check in my life is how do I want the people around me to respond in this situation? Well, I have to
Exactly.
remember
Yeah.
that that's the way that I need to respond. I need to set the tone.
Right. For sure. I think that it also when we're talking about, you know, those failures and things like that, you know, ultimately the buck stops with you as the leader, right?
Mhm.
And so if the buck stops with you, then you're all lumped in together. It's like the quarterback that throws his offensive line under the bus, or the quarterback who says, I take responsibility. We've got to get out there. I've got to lead better. I've got to work harder. I've got to, because it may very well be somebody else's fault,
Right.
but the
Yeah.
leader takes it on the chin for the team. And when that happens, then the team rallies around,
Right.
right? The team will support that attitude and support that leader. And I think that it's important that a leader admits when they're wrong. I can't tell
Yeah.
you how many times I've admitted that I'm wrong. I mean, it's probably been 3 times that I've been wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Today. In the last hour. No, I'm just kidding.
No, a leader admits when they're wrong. And,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes you have to go in and you have to say, you know what, I didn't handle that right, or I didn't do that right, or I had this idea, we did it, I thought it was going to work, but it didn't work.
Right.
Mhm.
I just did that with our congregation a few weeks ago because we've laid out this vision and these things that we're doing in church, and we have this one thing that just did not work in the way that we wanted it to. And so we have to say, you know what, we tried it, it didn't work. We're not going to just keep doing it, but we're going to
Right.
go back to the drawing board and find a better way to do it, or we're going to just discontinue it, not do it at all. But I think that's leadership in showing that you're willing to learn, you're willing to pivot, you're willing to grow, you're willing to admit when you're wrong.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. You know, and to listen to those that are around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, so
I
good.
was, I was looking through some quotes and stuff earlier today on leadership just to kind of prepare for this. And one of the things I didn't even put down on my notes, but was an old quote. I think it was like an old Chinese proverb or something, but it was if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
It's so good that, I mean, you can do it on your own and it's so much faster sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you'll take the time to invest in a team and listen to the people around you, God's put you together for a reason.
Right.
And that's because
Yeah.
you can exponentially reach so much further and do so much more. But that means as a leader, I've got to be willing to listen to the people around me and recognize that God didn't just put me in your life to
Right.
lead you, but God put you in my life to help me lead better and for us to move forward together.
So good.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some opportunities? What are some? I really thought I was off camera. I had this hair on my shoe. Um, Like, did you see that? And I just reached down and like pulled it off. It's like all stringy and everything. Um, no, I know. I just for some Jasmine was defending her position.
You're doing a great job, Jasmine.
You know what? I'm a leader, and so I'll take responsibility for Jasmine's camera error. I'm just kidding. No, I was gonna say, what's some experience that you have, Kaiden, of doing that, where you listen to, to somebody else, and maybe even I think it's good to hear examples about when you disagreed, but still listen to somebody else.
Yeah, so I think one of just listening to someone else is like, I think one time our power went out and like we couldn't do worship like we normally would. And
Yeah.
so me thinking, I'm just like, we're just not going to do it because this is too stressful and I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think our youth pastor, he was like, why can't we do it? Like, we can set up chairs outside. It's not going to be that bad. Choose songs that we all know.
Yeah.
And go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad we did do it because it felt like people really engaged with it.
Yeah.
But like if I hadn't listened, then who knows what would have happened, you know?
Right.
Right. Well,
And
I think one situation that I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one thing to keep in mind there is, even though you're the leader of that team, the youth pastor was the leader of the service. And so
right.
you had a choice, right? You can always, you could have not done it. And
Yeah.
probably not done worship anymore. Or, but that's your choice. Or you could have done it with a crappy attitude. And if you would have done it with a crappy attitude, then it probably wouldn't have turned out well. But a leader leads even when they aren't the leader.
Right.
You're leading in every situation. And so, you had a point of leadership, over this area, but your leadership was usurped by somebody else that said, I think we need to do this. And so then you led in your humility in saying, you know what, I didn't agree with this situation, but this wasn't my call. And so I'm going to do it the best that I can. And you went out and now you said, I'm really glad that we did it. I'm really glad that I humbled myself to that. And your team saw that, because they probably knew your position, right? They knew you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Oh, I think it's important to know that that a leader is submitted.
Yeah.
And they should be submitted. And if they're not, then they shouldn't be in a position of leadership.
Right.
Right.
So many people think that that I want to go out and do things on my own. I can't tell you the amount of churches that have started just because somebody, can I say it? Somebody got pissed. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but
Probably not, but it's over now.
The amount of churches that have started that way because they couldn't submit to someone else. And those churches, when they start out of those situations, they're starting off based on such a wrong foot, and they don't realize that even if you're the head guy, if you're doing it right, you're submitted to God.
Right.
Ultimately, I can't tell you the amount of things that I've wanted to do and God said no. Even just the other day, we were talking in one of our church staff meetings. Jasmine and I were talking, and there's been something that we've been milling around for a while, but I really thought, yeah, it's just me. I think maybe this should happen or whatever. And but God spoke to me on a Sunday morning about a month ago, and very sternly spoke to me and said, I want to take you somewhere that you haven't been, but I can't because you won't be obedient to me in this area. And, the reality is that if I'm going to be a leader, then I have to submit to that. It's no longer about my vanity at that moment. It's no longer about my way. It has to be about his way. And I have a choice. I always have a choice. You always have a choice in everything. I could follow him or I cannot. But if I don't, then I'm saying my way is better than yours.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
My way is better than God's. And so even in, let's say, even in that situation of your youth pastor saying, no, we're going to do this. Let's say he was wrong. Now you said he was not, right? But let's
Yeah.
say he was wrong and it was a total disaster. That's not where you as a leader say, well, I told you it was going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's because you did your job in submission, and
Mhm.
then he answers to the person that he's submitted to,
Right.
whether it's in the hierarchy of the church or he answers, to God for this if he's in the direct position or whatever, right? And we all answer
Yeah.
to God ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
But you're only responsible to do where your level of submission is.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And so as we're submitted, we have those conversations. Our staff has that freedom to come and have those conversations with us. It's a rare occasion, and we'll see how Jasmine responds. But it's a rare occasion that they'll come to me with an idea or something that I say, no, we're not going to do that.
Right.
Because most of the time I have faith in them, and in their ideas and that they hear from God.
Mhm.
And so I give them the leeway, even if I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
completely. But there have been times where I've said, no, I don't think that's the direction that we need to go. But once again, as you earn that respect, and you earn that trust with one another, I can say, you know what? I don't really like this song, but I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've said that many times, to all of my staff. You know what? I don't really understand that, but I trust you. And
Right.
Mm.
because I trust you, then we're going to move in this direction. And if there's a challenge with it, if it didn't go well or something, then we'll have a conversation about it. Not a condemning one, but a
Right.
growth one. Let's
Right.
all grow together. And honestly, they have the freedom to do the same thing with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's important to, like, if your team, like a team member has an idea and it's aligned with culture and
Yeah.
like the thing that you guys are like about, then it's important to give them a chance to try to execute it. And if it doesn't go well, then you guys learn from it and we try something else.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think that's so important. Um, One of the things that I wanted to kind of hit today, as we're talking about leadership, is a leader must first be a servant.
Yes.
Yes.
And many times, and we've hit around it today, but
Mhm.
many times we lead in the way that we serve
Yes.
and the way that
Mhm.
we serve others. And as we were talking, I think you had a scripture that you wanted to talk
Yeah.
about on that.
Along those lines, I mean, I think that sometimes people have this idea of, oh, I serve now because later I'll lead.
Yeah,
But as a leader, you become the lead servant.
correct.
And so that servanthood, that heart never changes. Now,
Yeah.
responsibilities may change, but there'll be never be a point that you stop serving.
Hmm.
But yeah, what came to my heart when I was looking at this earlier was Matthew chapter 20. And in verse 20, it says that the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. And he said to her, "What do you wish?" This is Jesus. And she said, "Grant these two sons of mine, may they sit one at your right hand and the other on the left in your kingdom." But Jesus answered and said, "You don't know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink and be baptized with the baptism that I'm baptized with?" Are you willing to go through what
Mhm.
Jesus was getting ready to go through?
Right.
Because
Mhm.
that's what you're asking. You're asking for this leadership position, but really what you're asking for is the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
Servanthood never stops.
good.
Jesus was the greatest servant we ever saw.
Yeah.
And so we're never beyond that. And then he goes on later to say that, yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become a great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him become your slave. This, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve
Mm.
and to give his life a ransom for many. even Jesus came
Right.
to serve.
Yeah.
And so how do you become a great leader?
Yeah.
You become a great servant.
That's so good.
Mhm.
I think it's
When I think about
no, go ahead, Kaiden.
when I think about Jesus being a servant, I don't remember exactly where it's at, but when he goes and he washes the feet of his disciples, and
Yeah.
like that's a perfect example of a leader. He knows like why he's here, but he's here to serve.
Yep.
Mhm.
And like that's his first priority, you know?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's so good.
I think along those lines too, and we talked about how a leader is not afraid to admit that they're wrong.
Mhm.
Sometimes we see that as a sign of weakness.
Mhm.
But to me, it's a sign of strength
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
I'm humbling myself in this situation. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm wrong. I'm also not afraid of the criticism,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of criticism that comes with leadership. One of the things that somebody said to me as I entered into the political world is every time that you have a vote, you need to be able to have a conversation about that vote and defend that vote when you're in the line at the grocery store.
Mhm.
Sometimes those conversations at Albertsons were not pleasant conversations because
Right.
somebody didn't agree with my vote.
Mhm.
But I was always able to at least give my reasoning. Maybe they didn't agree with my reasoning. And what I found was most people would respect the reasoning, even if they didn't agree with the outcome.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so I think that those things are really important, that you admit when you're wrong, you
Mhm.
humble yourself, you know who you answer to, you know, who it is that you serve. Also that you have thick skin and
Right.
that you can take criticism, that you don't have revenge in your heart, because there's
Right.
so many times that as a leader, that you can be vengeful
Mhm.
against someone else. We don't have a right to carry revenge in our heart. We have to move past that in our life. And then the other thing that I think is extremely important is that a leader always does whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when we're talking about humility, when we're talking about serving, a leader's willing to do whatever it takes, adapt, adjust. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is mental health. We talk so much about mental health on this podcast. And for me and for so many, that's what it takes. These things like the Total Health Challenge, we don't do that just to do it,
Right.
but that's what
Right.
it takes. That's what we have to do. I have to be healthy in my body so that I can serve the people that I'm supposed to serve. Who am I submitting to in that? I'm submitting to God, and I'm
Mhm.
submitting to my calling.
Right.
Because
Mhm.
my calling requires health. My calling requires me to be healthy, both mentally and physically, emotionally. My calling requires me. So, in order for me to be healthy emotionally, I have to go see a counselor. I don't like it. I actually do like it now, but I didn't like it at the
Didn't at
beginning.
first.
But in order for me to be healthy, that's what I got to do. So I have a choice. I can do it or I can not do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if I want to submit to my calling, that's what I've got to do.
Right.
Um, I have to submit to my spouse. And you're like, well, the Bible says that wives should submit to their husbands. But then it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And then what did he do? He gave himself for the
Right.
church. And
Mhm.
Well,
so,
and that passage starts out telling you to submit to each other.
yes, it
And
does.
then it goes
Yeah.
on to say those things. So before it ever goes there, it says first, submit to each other.
Right. Right. And so if I can't, the Bible says if I can't rule my house well, my
Mhm.
own house well, I can't rule the house of God. And
Mhm.
so I have to submit to my wife. That means I might have to watch a Hallmark movie every now and then,
Yes.
um, which is absolute torture.
It's
But
Oh yeah, no
not
problem.
bad.
but
It might be, but I still really love them. I know the acting's bad
the
and I
story is
could
bad.
predict the story, like, but it still makes you sit there with a cheesy smile the whole time watching it.
But seriously, I mean, we have to
Right.
give a little bit,
Yeah.
so that we, and I don't mean That sounds really horrible. As it was getting ready to come out of my mouth, I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna grab that one and put it back in." But we have to give a little bit so that we can accomplish our calling.
Mhm.
You know, what I was gonna say is we have to give a little bit so that we can get to where we want to go, but that's not the only reason. We're
Right.
doing it so that we can be healthy.
Mhm.
We're doing it
Yeah.
so that we can be an example of Christ in everything that we do, and he gave the entire time,
Yeah.
right? He gave, that's what his whole life was about, his ministry was about, and ultimately his death, his burial, and his resurrection was about.
Absolutely.
For God so loved the world that he gave, right? He
Yep.
gave Jesus, and then Jesus only did what he saw the Father do,
Mhm.
right? Super good.
That's so good.
What else do we have? What other thoughts do we have? I dominated the end of that.
I think going back on like how you said doing whatever it takes, like in my situation, my team is small.
Yeah.
And so it's on me to start getting out of my comfort zone and being a fisher of man to find people who like who have a passion for worship or like want to learn an instrument.
That's good.
And like
Mhm.
so I need to get them in, train them, and
Right.
get them on my team if I want it to grow, you know?
Yeah.
That's good. Have you tried standing on the corner with one of those spinny signs?
No, I'm not gonna do
You
that.
could wear a guitar costume or like a music note.
So
I
But you know those
endorse all of his opinions, just so you know.
I'll do this. I'll wear those big like drum backpacks
Yes.
and then stomp around with the bells on my feet and just yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would love
That
that.
might work.
That'd be really good. No, I agree with your point, but I couldn't get that image out of my head for some reason. So sometimes you just got to say it.
No, I think that's really good though, and the fact that not the costumes, those were not good. But as far as you saying, like, you have the vision for something bigger, right?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
it's not that you're, not content where you are, but you have a vision for growth. And that's an important leadership
Mhm.
quality, that you have vision and that you're able to cast that vision, because you have to be able to lead your team, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if you don't dream bigger, how can you expect them to dream bigger?
Right.
And so
Exactly.
that's a great quality of a leader right there.
Well, Proverbs 29:18
Mhm.
says, where there's no vision, the people perish, right? So you have to have a vision moving forward. One quote that we had written down, I say we very loosely, one quote that Tiffany wrote down that I'm going to say
He's going to
is
take credit for.
that I'm going to take credit for. It's by John Maxwell. John Maxwell said, a leader is one who knows the way, who goes the way, and who shows the way.
Right.
So
Mhm.
as we've bought into it, as you said, we're being a fisher of men. I think that's a really interesting use of that word,
Mhm.
or that phrase, because so many times we only use that phrase as I'm going out and sharing Jesus with people,
Mhm.
which is absolutely what
Yeah.
Jesus is talking about there. But we're also doing it to pull people into purpose,
Yeah.
right? And so as you know him, as you begin to follow him, then God's called every one of us to something that's bigger than us. And
Mhm.
so
Exactly.
by going out there and saying, let me help you
Mhm.
find that place, is something that, again, a leader does. I'm going to help you find that place and help you find that purpose for your
So
life.
good. I love it.
Yeah. What else? Any other thoughts as we wrap up?
Um, Nothing's really coming to mind at the moment.
Yeah. You have that happen a lot, don't you?
That was rude.
Oh, that was hurtful, wasn't it? That was super hurtful. I
Terrible.
love my nephew very much.
That was good stuff.
I just wanted to make him feel at home, and that's the same kind of treatment he would get at home.
Wow.
Um, dude, thanks for being on today.
Yeah,
Really good. We'll have to do it again in season 2. Does that sound good?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe talk about something different. But really good. I'm glad you reached out and wanted to be on this. I'm glad that we had you on,
Mhm.
and we had our first remote guest.
Yeah.
First of many. Fist bumps around the world. Boom, boom.
Yes.
Did you see me? That was like a new TikTok dance. It was all boom, boom, and then freeze. I liked it.
Wow.
I liked
You're
it.
old.
How does it?
He said it,
my
not me.
gosh. Oh.
But I'm not, right?
Well,
Oh, that is
love y'all. Nah.
God, that's so hurtful. I'm gonna have your mom on next time. That'll be more fun.
The largest tongue in the world.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Your mom has the largest tongue in the world.
That's so mean.
That's very mean. I haven't talked about that in a long time. But yeah. Anyway, April Fool's Day. Go out there and do
Don't be a fool.
Go out there and fool somebody.
No, don't. That's annoying.
Total Health Challenge. A new one starts today. Add worshiping to your journaling.
Yep.
This has been super good. Thanks
It's
for
gonna be a great
doing
month.
life with us.
Yes.
We'll see you next week.